Good morning. I'm Andy Myers at Weiss Research, and this is your morning market alert for Friday, December 10th. Jen Amos is off today. Stocks on Wall Street are set to open modestly higher following the latest data on international trade. The U.S. trade deficit narrowed again in October to $38.7 billion, well below estimates and the lowest level since January. Exports rose to a two-year high and imports fell. Meanwhile, import prices rose 1.3%, due mainly to higher oil costs. Following the report, the dollar is gaining ground against other major currencies, and Treasury prices are falling. Later this morning, Reuters and the University of Michigan will release their index of consumer sentiment. It's expected to show continued improvement so far this month. The major European indexes are relatively flat, and stocks across Asia finished mostly lower after a report showed that China's imports and exports both hit records in November, and its trade deficit narrowed. China also raised the amount of capital its banks need to keep as reserves, but investors are still concerned that the country will raise interest rates to hold down inflation and cool economic growth. On the corporate front, a buyout battle is turning the spotlight on the healthcare sector. Community Health Systems said Tenet Healthcare rejected its takeover offer, worth a total of $7.3 billion. The offer values Tenet at about $6 a share, or a 40% premium over Thursday's closing price. But Tenet thinks it's too low. Tenet shares are already surging above $6 in pre-market trading, and Community is dropping about 5%. Following the unsuccessful bid, Raymond James downgraded Community to market perform, and Lazard cut it to hold. Citigroup said the company may have to boost its offer to $7 a share to get Tenet to agree to the deal. In other M&A news, the Wall Street Journal reports that Beckman Coulter is putting itself up for sale. The provider of laboratory tests, systems, and supplies reportedly could draw bids upwards of $5 billion. And the Journal said a number of private equity firms and corporate rivals have already expressed interest. Shares of Beckman Coulter are jumping 25% on the news to about $71. JP Morgan said it could ultimately be worth $74 a share. Another big mover today, but in the opposite direction, may be National Semiconductor, dropping 8% in the pre-market. The chipmaker reported a 78% jump in quarterly profit, but fell short of sales estimates amid slower demand in the mobile phone market. Following the release, JP Morgan cut its rating on National Semi to neutral. A bunch of its competitors are getting attention from analysts today as well. Origa USA boosted its price target on Intel stock, and Nomura rated Intel a new buy. Nomura initiated coverage on most of the players in the chip industry. Advanced Micro Devices, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and NVIDIA got neutral ratings, but it recommended reducing your holdings of Texas Instruments, Analog Devices, and Linear Technology. Among other tech stocks, the price targets on Research in Motion, Ciena, and Akamai Technologies were all raised by analysts. We're likely to see movement in several stocks today after Standard & Poor's announced changes in its indexes. Netflix, Newfield Exploration, and F5 Networks will all be added to the S&P 500, replacing the New York Times, Office Depot, and Eastman Kodak. King Pharmaceuticals will also drop out of the S&P 500 because it's being acquired by Pfizer. It will be replaced by Cablevision Systems, which is jumping more than 5% on the news. Turning to the banking sector, Capital One Financial is gaining 1.5% in the pre-market after FBR Capital upgraded it to outperform. FBR also said it favors large banks over regionals, particularly Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and PNC Financial. Meanwhile, SunTrust Robinson boosted its rating on M&T Bank to buy. In other analyst calls, Goldman Sachs upgraded Procter & Gamble to buy. P&G shares are rising about 1% on the news. And JP Morgan is out with its forecast for the stock market in 2011. It says the S&P 500 could jump more than 15%, ending the year at 1425. That's the latest from Weiss Research. Have a good trading day and a great weekend.